Amendments 11, 12, 20, 22, 25, and 27 are the administrative amendments. Firstly, the 11th Amendment states, "The judicial power of the United States shall not be construed to extend to any suit in law or equity commenced or prosecuted against one of the United States by citizens of another state, or by citizens or subjects of any foreign state." So this is an amendment that it reflects federalism, and it prevents suits against states by citizens of other states or countries, and just based on the status of the plaintiff and not the subject. However, states can be sued with the approval of Congress, and citizens can sue state officials from other states. So according to the Cornell Law website, the amendment is considered esoteric, abstruse, and decisions inconsistent. Amendment 12, choosing the president and vice president. This was ratified in 1804 after contentious presidential elections before that, and it reworks the way the electoral system works and who they vote for. I'm not going to read the whole thing. It's pretty long, but I'll read key portions and you can go in and read the whole thing for yourself. It says, "The electors shall meet in their respective states and vote by ballot for president and vice president. They shall name in their ballots the persons voted for as president, and in distinct ballots the person voted for as vice president. The person having the greatest number of votes for president shall be the president. If there's a tie, the House of Representatives shall choose immediately. The person having the greatest number of votes as vice president shall be the vice president, and the Senate shall choose the vice president if there's a tie." So this supersedes Clause 3 of Section 1, Article 2, was that they voted for only president, and the second place vote getter became the vice president. And so again, like I said, the election of 1800, the vice president and president were from different parties. So now this actually allowed the presidential candidate to choose a running mate, and the electors abide by that choice and the choice of the people when they do their electing in mid-December. Amendment 20, presidential and congressional terms, states the terms of the president and vice president shall end at noon on the 20th day of January, and the terms of senators and representatives at noon on the 3rd day of January of the years in which the such terms shall have ended if this article had not been ratified. So we have an inauguration of the president happening immediately at noon on January 20th, regardless of if they give their oath at that time. We had one case where David Rice Atchison was president for one day because Zachary Taylor didn't want to take the oath of office because it was on a Sunday. So we will have a new president, even if they haven't been determined or it's not clear, on the noon of the 20th of January. That moves up the inauguration day from March, and there are some new technologies that had come out between 1787 and 1933, notably trains and railroads, cars, roads, and steam and gas engines. So quite a few. They could get there a little earlier. Telephone communications were up by 1933 when this was ratified as well. It does state that Congress may by law provide for the case wherein neither a president-elect nor a vice president-elect shall have qualified, declaring who then shall act as president. See, David Atchison was the president pro tem of the Senate, so he got put into the position of president for that day. Today, it is the Speaker of the House. The 22nd Amendment limits presidential term limits and states no person shall be elected to the office of president more than twice. No person who has held the office of president and acted as a president for more than 2 years of a term to which some other person was elected president shall be elected to the office of the president more than once. Prior to this, a president could serve unlimited terms. The precedent, though, was set by Washington in the very first presidency when he retired after his second term and did not seek a third re-election. Now, the first president to serve more than 2 terms was Franklin Roosevelt during the Great Depression and World War II. He didn't complete his 4th term, and Harry Truman took over. But Harry Truman served more than 2 years of Roosevelt's term, so he was only allowed to be reelected. He would have only been allowed to be reelected one time, but since this was passed in his presidency, this particular amendment did not apply to him. Amendment 25, Presidential Disability and Succession. It clarifies some things about the president and the vice president. It states, in case of the removal of president from office or his death or resignation, the vice president shall become president. Section 2, whenever there is a vacancy in the office of vice president, the president shall nominate a vice president who shall take office upon confirmation by the majority of both houses of Congress. The third section states that whenever a president transmits to the president pro tem of the Senate and the Speaker of the House his written declaration that he is unable to discharge the powers and duties of his office until he transmits to them a written declaration to the contrary, such powers and duties shall be discharged by the vice president as acting president. See, this section was invoked in 2002. For about 2 hours when George W. Bush needed a colonoscopy. And Section 4 says that whenever the vice president and a majority of either the principal officers of the executive departments, also known as the cabinet, or of such other bodies as Congress may by law provide, transmit to the president pro tem of the Senate and the Speaker of the House, respectively, their written declaration that the president is unable to discharge the powers and duties of his office, the vice president shall immediately assume the powers and duties of the office as acting president. So this was invoked when President Wilson had a stroke and Ronald Reagan had been shot and was in a coma. It allows for the peaceful transition of power temporarily to the vice president, and then once the president is recovered, then he gets his office back. Amendment 27 states no law varying the compensation for services of senators and representatives shall take effect until an election of representatives has intervened. So what this says is that pay increases take effect after the next election.